Hello again, rail fans, and welcome back to another video. I have once again ventured outside the state of Ohio for another road trip. This time, I was taking a multi-state trip through the states of Kentucky, Virginia, and Tennessee with hopes of chasing the annual CSX Santa Train. The Santa Train was a yearly tradition that was passed down to CSX from one of their predecessors, the Clinchfield Railroad. Every year since 1942, with the exceptions of 2020 and 2021, the Clinchfield Railroad, later CSX, would run their business train between Shelbyana, Kentucky, and Kingsport, Tennessee. The main purpose of this was to give gifts to people living in towns in between Shelbyana and Kingsport that are not basically the most well-income cities and not making a lot of money, and they can't really get gifts for their families themselves. So CSX makes the kind gesture of running their train between those two cities so the townspeople can meet Santa, give gifts, and spread the Christmas cheer. Considering this was the first time CSX has run the Santa train after a 2-year hiatus because of COVID-19, rail fans across the nation would flock down to Kentucky to witness the train themselves. And me and a lot of members from the Central Ohio Model Railroad Club were among that massive group of rail fans. The first day of our trip, November 18th, 2022, was the day that we would drive down to Kentucky to check into our hotel. When that was done and over with, one of my friends from the Model Railroad Club, an avid YouTuber, BuckeyeNationRailroader, who also happened to be staying in the same hotel as we were, wanted to take me sightseeing along CSX's Big Sandy subdivision. At this particular moment in time, we were not actually out to see any trains. We were just doing some sightseeing on the outskirts of Paintsville, Kentucky, which was the town that we were spending the night at. In addition to getting some pictures of this former Chesapeake and Ohio signal bridge just on the outskirts of downtown Paintsville. After taking pictures of that signal bridge, we then went back into downtown Paintsville to find another set of former C&O signals not too far away from our hotel. This time, I was actually hoping to see a train pass underneath the signals while there was still some light in the sky while we were here. Luck would actually work out in my favor this evening because we actually would see a train pass under this set of signals, which was a westbound CSX empty coal train on the Big Sandy subdivision. Considering there was not much light left to record with, we decided to call it, eat a meal for dinner, and head back to the hotel and prepare ourselves for the chase tomorrow. So let's fast forward to the next day at the snap of my fingers, shall we? Good morning, folks, and welcome to the day of our chase, November 19th, 2022. After spending some time yesterday picking out locations to see the Santa train off of a map that was given to me by another friend, Ohio Pacific Productions, we set out bright and early to start our chase of the Santa train. The first place I wanted to stop and see the Santa train at was Elkhorn City, Kentucky. As it would turn out, I had to improvise pretty hard and we wouldn't get the stop in Elkhorn City. We didn't reach our first stop of the chase until we reached the small town of Haysi, Virginia. Haysi, Virginia is one of the most popular stops along the Clinchfield main line for people to come and see the Santa train. With many rail fans on the chase of the Santa train coming to this particular location, and the train was actually going to stop at this particular location, this shot would end up getting pretty tight. After waiting about 20 minutes in the cold along with the big crowds, the Santa train slowly glides out of the tunnel for its stop here in Haysi.
Here's the new sleeper.
Welcome to the Santa train. We are so happy you are here.
After the train came to a stop in Haysi, we decided to break off to get ahead of it. After nearly making a wrong turn out of Haysi, we didn't get to our next place to stop until we reached the small town of Clinchfield, Virginia. At this particular location, State Route 80 comes up right alongside the tracks of the ex-Clinchfield main line and is also the location of a pair of tunnels. With the cavalcade of people passing by on the freeway, the CSX Santa train departed from its stop in Clinchfield, Virginia. Here we see it as it exits the tunnel in front of me and prepares to enter the second tunnel behind me. As Santa Claus disappeared into the tunnel, we then hit the road to get to our next location. Skipping over the stop in Fremont, Virginia, we then find ourselves at the Carter-Stanley Highway Railroad crossing in McClure, Virginia. Now, between here and our previous location, we also got to see an ethanol train, although that wasn't much of our concern because we were here specifically to chase the Santa train, so if there were any other trains in the area, unless if they held up the Santa train for any given reason, we didn't really care that much about any other trains in the area. After unloading gifts for about 20 to 25 minutes, the Santa train departed Fremont and passes us here on its way to its next stop of Dane, Virginia. After catching the train at McClure, we decided to leapfrog ahead of it. Skipping over its next stop in Dane, we decided to go all the way to a Sunoco gas station that's just on the outskirts of St. Paul, Virginia. Also at this location that we can't see because of the camera's perspective, there was also a signal equipped with a dull arm here. While all the other railfans were standing next to that signal, BuckeyeNationRailroader and I decided to stay where we were at and get a shot of the Santa train going around the curve from the inside. After the Santa train passed us here, we decided to break off and go get some lunch at a local McDonald's in downtown St. Paul, Virginia, around the same time the Santa train was making his stop there. Unfortunately, the staff wasn't ready to serve the amount of customers that were going over there to get lunch, so it took longer than expected for us to get our food, and as a result, the Santa train departed St. Paul while we were trying to get our lunch. That being said, the next stop that we were supposed to see the Santa train at was Dungannon, Virginia, but considering the hang-up in St. Paul, that just wasn't possible because Dungannon was super crowded by the time we got there. On the bright side, though, the Santa train did have to make a stop in Dungannon, so that bought us time to get ahead of it and pull off at a private railroad crossing that's just off of Route 63 on the outskirts of Dungannon, Virginia. After getting ahead of the train once again, our next place to stop to see it was in a field just off of Route 63/Route 58 in between Dungannon and Fort Blackmore, Virginia. This location was also pretty popular due to the fact that it was wide open and there was also a big sweeping curve. After getting ahead of the train once again, we decided to make the Copper Creek Bridge our final location for this chase. The appeal of this particular location was pretty obvious due to the fact that everybody that was chasing the Santa train, they all came here to watch it go across the bridge. While standing in the middle of the highway like a complete idiot, I was able to get a decent shot of the Santa train as it was crossing the Copper Creek Bridge. This was one of the few locations along this trip that I was actually going to put forth a lot of effort to get a picture or video of the train. And as you're seeing right now, it turned out really well as the Santa train slowly crossed the bridge, creeping towards the Virginia and Tennessee state line. Alrighty, folks. We are done chasing the Santa train, but on our way back up, we are going to take a look at Natural Tunnel. I'm about, I'd say, a third to halfway down, so it's a long walk. So I'll go ahead and get back to you guys once I get to the bottom. Alright, folks, I just reached the bottom, and this is Natural Tunnel, or at least one of the natural tunnels. This is the first one here in front of me. And if you turn 360 degrees, there is the other tunnel. So this is pretty cool. Parking lot is all the way up there, as you could probably see. And tunnel is all the way down here. So, not sure how long we're going to stay, and hopefully we'll see something while we're down here, but we'll see what happens from here. Yep, that's basically it. Natural Tunnel needs almost no introduction, except for the fact that it's one of the most photogenic spots along Norfolk Southern's Appalachia District. Considering this location is on my way home, I decided to make a quick pit stop and check it out for a few minutes. However, the big catch is that the Appalachia District doesn't see very many trains in a 24-hour time span. In similar fashion to the CSX coal train that we saw in Paintsville the other day, we would end up getting lucky because here's a Norfolk Southern northbound mixed freight train as it snakes through the wilderness and into Natural Tunnel. We had a little bit more time to kill after the Norfolk Southern train made its way through Natural Tunnel, but we had to get back on the road for the 6-hour drive back to Columbus, Ohio about 10 to 15 minutes later. When it was all said and done with, overall, this was a very fun chase. For a first-time train chaser, this went very well despite having some minor headaches here and there, and improvements need to be made by the time we do this next time. I would also like to give a big shout out to my family, Buckeye Nation Railroader, and Ohio Pacific Productions for providing me with the materials needed that made this trip possible. Anyways, leave a like and or a comment down below to share your thoughts. If you enjoy the content that I produce, consider subscribing to my YouTube channel and tapping the bell button to be notified when a new video gets posted. Anyways, that's all for now. This is All Ohio Rail Fan, signing off.